The project we are here to discuss tonight, the application number is LUP 2305144. Project name at this point is just Dr. Phillips Commercial Plan Development. My name is Doug McDowell, as I said. There's my contact information. I'll have that up again at the end of the screen, and I will have cards for you all. Next slide, please. This meeting was called by District 1 Commissioner Nicole Wilson. She is here this evening. Do you want to say anything before we begin?
Thank you, Doug. I know that there's a lot of people here. You waited in the rain. Thank you so much for your patience. I appreciate you. As you know from other community meetings, because this community is so engaged, my office provides, basically the opportunity for an applicant to come forward and present to a community so they can hear your feedback. It's part of the planning process. Our planning department assists the applicant in making sure that we get that information out and that they go through the process of our county's governing documents, and that this process works in a way that makes sense. That being said, I think a lot of times after these things are over, there's existing questions, and I may not be the person with the answers, but I can help get you to the person with the answers. So please do not hesitate to reach out to District 1 at ocfl.net, to the planning department, and at some point tonight, hopefully the applicant will be okay with taking some questions from you all.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Okay, next slide, please. The request tonight is to rezone about 1.62 acres from C1, that's our retail commercial district, to planned development. In addition, 7 waivers from Orange County Code are being requested. Those are related to impervious area, setbacks, building height, and building coverage. And we will go over those in detail in a minute. The location of this, you probably know, is the northwest corner of Dr. Phillips and West Van Lake Road. The proposed use would be up to 29,750 square feet of commercial uses and also structured parking. Next slide, please. This is just a general location of it within District 1. They don't know where it is. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the future land use map, not the zoning map, future land use map from our comprehensive plan. As you can see, the site is designated as commercial. Nearby properties are also designated commercial or office. You do have medium density residential as well down there to the south. There is no change proposed for this as it is a commercial development. Next slide, please. This is the current zoning in the area. As you can see, the property is zoned C1, as is everything in that quadrant of that intersection and also across the street. The Granada Properties Planned Development is located to the south and to the west. And you also have some R3 higher density residential zoning in the area. Next slide, please. If the zoning was approved, it would become a new planned development. At this point, titled Dr. Phillips Commercial. That's what the map would look like if it was approved. Next slide, please. This is a fairly recent aerial of the area. You can see the site is presently developed with a bank facility that was built in the 1980s. There is retail commercial to the east that was mostly also built in the 1980s. You also have retail commercial on the other side of Dr. Phillips, also across Sand Lake Road, and then of course in the general vicinity you do have some of the higher density residential. Next slide, please. This is the draft proposed land use plan. There is typically not a lot of detail on a land use plan. There is another plan that they do afterwards that will show more detail. This one does happen to have an aerial superimposed. That's not usual, but as it's a developed site, that's why the applicant chose to put it in there. We've highlighted where the access points would be. However, we've crossed out that one at the very north end of the property because both our traffic and development engineering divisions have stated they do not want that access there because it is too close to Dr. Phillips Road. Keep in mind, these are drafts. They are subject to change. We can go back to that. Next slide, please. These are a couple of a concept plan and a rendering of the property that was given to us by the applicant. These are drafts. They have not been approved. They will not be approved with the rezoning, with the land use plan. They were given to us in order to help us assess whether or not the waivers they have asked for were justified. The applicants obviously brought some of their own as well. They can go to that. Next slide, please. Okay, just going to go through a few frequently asked questions. What are they going to build if this is approved? As I said previously, it could be up to 29,750 square feet of commercial uses Those, according to the plan they have submitted, would be limited to C1 type uses, which are general retail uses, that are the same as are permitted there now. It would also feature a structured parking as part of the building. What type of activity or development could take place on the property now? The current C1 zoning essentially allows the same uses, has the same floor area ratio maximum. It has similar setbacks. It has a maximum 50-foot building height. They're asking for a somewhat higher maximum building height. As I said previously, the site is currently developed with a bank facility. That facility currently is about 10,000 square feet. It was built around 1984. Next slide, please. Question is, what would the requester's waivers allow if it was permitted? So we put together this table showing what the current zoning, the C1 standard is, what the planned development standard is for most planned development zoning, and then the waiver that they have requested. So for impervious area, that is the area of impervious surface that includes buildings, it includes parking, and it also to some extent includes stormwater ponds. The C1 and PD standards are 70%. The waiver they are requesting is for 90%. Building height currently is 50 feet. The PD typically allows 50 feet. They are asking for a maximum height of 70 feet or 6 stories. Open space requirements in the C1 development, there isn't a requirement for open space. The PD standard is 20%. They are requesting a waiver to bring that down to 8%. Setbacks, in the C1 it depends, because like the zoning code defines it as front, back, and side. It would depend on how you configure the building, but it would be somewhere between 0 and 25 feet. It's 25 front, 20 rear, and 0 on the sides. The PD standard typically requires a 25-foot perimeter setback around the entire development. They're requesting a 10-foot setback on the north end of the property. They're requesting a 20-foot setback on the east side of the property. That's the side that faces Dr. Phillips Boulevard. And on the west side, which is the side that faces the parking area of the commercial development that's there now, they're asking for 0 feet. They are also asking for a reduction in required landscape buffer on the east side to 0 feet. They are planning to install pedestrian amenities and that type of thing. To make up for that, the applicant go into that in a little more detail. Next slide, please. People always ask, how will increases in traffic be taken into consideration for this development? The county requires any application for a planned development to conduct a study to assess the traffic and capacity impacts for the proposed development. They are subject to transportation concurrency. The development has to submit for a capacity encumbrance letter to obtain transportation concurrency. A traffic study and a proportionate share agreement are going to be required prior to that approval. I believe we do have transportation planning staff here tonight, Ms. Myrna Park, if she can answer any of your questions on that. Next slide, please. This is just a diagram of the process and where we're at. Like we said, we're not changing your future land use map, it's remaining commercial. We are now at the land use plan application, which is how a property gets rezoned to planned development. As part of that effort, we are holding the community meeting here tonight on September 20th. The next stage from here, after staff review is completed, is they will go to the Development Review Committee for a recommendation. The Development Review Committee is made up of 5 department heads. They make a recommendation on all planned development rezonings and development plans and subdivision plans. Their meeting is not a public hearing, but it is open to the public, and they do take public comment. I want you to be aware of that. Following that meeting, there will be a public hearing with the Planning and Zoning Commission. If you were notified of this meeting through the mail, you will be notified of that meeting through the mail. Following the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, there will be a hearing with the Board of County Commissioners who ultimately will decide whether or not the land use plan and the rezoning will be adopted. Next slide, please. Another question that comes up, if this rezoning is approved, what's the next step in the development process? Once the land use plan is approved and the property is rezoned to planned development, the applicants must submit for a development plan for approval. The development plan, or the DP, will include much more detail than the land use plan. We will get much more into the design of the buildings and the landscaping and all of that in this stage. The development plan will be reviewed by county staff. It will go to the development review committee for approval. Once again, open to the public, not a public hearing per se, but open to public comments. A development plan is in fact approved at that level. However, the decision of the development review committee can be appealed to the Board of County Commissioners. Next slide, please. So, your next great opportunity for public testimony is going to be that Planning and Zoning Commission. We are a ways off from that as we're still in staff review, and like I said, you will be notified of that meeting. Next slide, please. Following that, there will be the hearing before the Board of County Commissioners. Please feel free to get in touch with Commissioner Wilson, the rest of the county commissioners, or our mayor, Mr. Jerry Demings, and send your comments to them on this. So, next slide, please. Okay, that concludes my presentation. My contact information is here. I have plenty of cards to give out if anybody wants one. I'm going to hand it over at this time to the applicant to see if they have anything they'd like to say. So I'm going to hand it over to the applicant.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Chuck Woodall with Unicorp National Developments, and I think everybody must be excited to hear about some new restaurants to look at.
No.
So, anyway, let me tell you a little bit about what we've done in the area. And Commissioner Wilson, let me ask one quick question. I know everybody had to wait outside about 10 minutes. Are we allowed to go 15 minutes beyond? I don't know how long they have to room.
We'll do what we can.
So hopefully we can keep the room for a little bit longer than what we have. So I think it was 7 o'clock. But anyhow, first of all, I want to tell you a little bit about our company. We're a mixed-use developer. We built the Trader Joe's right next door in the Slate restaurant, which I will have a yummy prime rib sandwich after this. You may try it out. We also built Bellagio with all the restaurants, and that was in Orange Grove when we bought it, and you see we did a beautiful development there. Next door, we built the Fountains, where Roots Chris Steakhouse is, and other restaurants. And those are things we built in the Dr. Phillips area the last 20 years. Recently, we built Alta Cosmetics. So we are separate than the shopping center behind us. We own the front corner where the bank is, and we own the front corner where Alta Cosmetics is, and we still own Alta Cosmetics. And so I've owned the bank for 20 years, and we want to do a redevelopment of that property. While I could build apartments there, we don't want to build apartments there. We want to build a very nice mixed-use development to bring some high-end restaurants to Dr. Phillips. I went to the community meeting that was held not by the Orange County, but held by one of the neighbors who put it up at the JCC, several months ago. I attended that meeting. As a matter of fact, I built the development across the street, the new Publix that's there, and the new restaurants that are going in and all that. That's another one of our developments. I know everybody in this room, and I got contacted saying, this is just a precursor to all the apartments they want to put back behind Dr. Phillips Marketplace. First of all, it's not. I have nothing to do with them, not related to them, haven't talked to them. My property is 100% independent. I've owned it longer than they have. So, but I want to explain a couple things because you may not understand. Whatever happens on my property has nothing to do with what happens in the back. There is something that's been passed by Governor DeSantis called Live Local. It gives the current developer of the marketplace the ability to go in and build 800 or 900 apartments on that site without having a neighborhood meeting, without going to county commission. They can go in and apply for a permit on a commercially zoned piece of property, just like ours is commercially zoned. They can go in and apply for a building permit and build to the highest structure within 1 mile. So just up the street, there's a high-rise condo building. So they can build, I think it's 105 feet, is that right, 10 stories? They can build 10 stories on that project, behind Dr. Phillips Marketplace. So, I've gotten phone calls saying, oh, if this gets approved, they're gonna get approved. But I just want you all to know, they are not going to have a neighborhood meeting like this. They're not required to. The Live Local law that was passed by the governor July 1st allows commercial property to have apartments built on because we have a housing crisis in Florida, and they are making opportunities on commercial land to build residential.
Just really quickly.
Sure.
I just want to request that maybe we stick with the plan on this one. I don't think we can speak to anybody else's application since we don't have an application on file yet. I got the chance to talk to a few of you all about that recent update in legislation. The County Commission did pass an ordinance saying that even though we're not going to be under the state law evaluating anymore, I would suggest contacting your state lawmaker. But I think that what we've committed to as a county commission is still providing notice. So that if somebody applies under Live Local, in order to do that type of a conversion, we're gonna make sure that the sign is posted at the site, and the same kind of notice that would go out for a public hearing goes out to residents. So I just wanted to make sure you understood that we're still gonna communicate.
Yeah, I just want to make clear, so that Commissioner Wilson, I mean, like she just mentioned, they will post and you will get notice, but you can't stop it. And the reason I'm bringing that up is I don't want you to think if my project goes through, it is a runway for them to do their project. That is completely on different standards than what we're coming for. I did not come in here tonight to do apartments. Matter of fact, the most amount of profit I would make on this development is building an 8 to 10 story apartment complex. I'm a resident of Dr. Phillips. My wife said, if you do apartments here, she's gonna be down. So I'm not gonna do apartments. What I wanna do is we develop all over the nation. We're primarily in Central Florida. I was born and raised here. I live in Dr. Phillips. I built many communities in Dr. Phillips. We built many developments in Dr. Phillips, and I hope you all think they're very nice. And what we wanted to bring here is we have so many chain restaurants. We want to bring in some nice restaurants that we have found in New York and in Miami that are local type restaurants. They're just really good food. And what we want to bring is 4 or 5 restaurants to this site without coming here tonight as well. Like I mentioned, our property is owned commercial. I can build 105,000 square feet on that property without walking in this room tonight. The reason I'm in this room tonight are really for a couple things. It's the setbacks and the height. The setbacks, the reason we're asking for less setbacks is the county, as we reviewed the plan together with staff, they said, you know, can we go to that elevation of, can you pull it up on the screen? The county, you see kind of behind over there, the county came to me and said, look, if you're gonna put these restaurants there, why don't we make nice outdoor seating, do pavers out there, do umbrellas, and really wrap the entire corner and make it, you know, a very nice visual when you come to Dr. Phillips with outdoor seating with these restaurants. And I said, I don't have enough width to do that. And they said, well, ask for 0 setbacks because we think the corner would be significantly enhanced by having outdoor seating for the restaurants there versus just having a building. That's why I asked for reduced setbacks. The height, the main part of the extra height we're asking for is we have an elevator in the parking garage. So if you park in the parking garage, you can go up and down. And the run up for the elevator, which is the area the elevator has to go past the garage, requires extra height. And that's what puts us above the 50 foot. I think the building itself with the screening, we put this really, so we put screening that projects up, and then the elevators, it's hard to see, but the elevator run-ups go extra height. And that's where we go up to 70 foot. And right now the code allows for 50 foot. But there's other buildings around here that are that height, and like I said, it's really these appendages that run up the height of the building. You know, I saw this over in Europe. They're doing these beautiful glass buildings, and I thought, how nice would it be to have a glass building? This restaurant we're working with wants to have second floor seating, so that would be nice second floor seating, where we ask for the setbacks to be reduced. It's not to reduce the landscaping. You see, we have trees and everything all through here, and this all becomes outdoor seating here and outdoor seating all around here. And as far as the landscape, even though on the one side we went to a 0 landscape buffer, we're landscaping everything all the way out to Dr. Phillips and landscaping everything through here. It just happens to be in sidewalks like you would see in Europe. Anybody who's been to our projects, whether it's my Trader Joe's project, Bellagio, the fountains, we always spend double to triple what Orange County code is. We're not trying to do less landscaping, we're trying to do a better development that's pedestrian friendly. So, I mean, we're excited about it. The restaurants we're talking to, I guarantee everybody in this room would love to go to those restaurants. They're high-end, high-quality restaurants. You guys may know we announced that we're building the Tao Hotel on Palm Parkway, and we're bringing the first Tao restaurant to the state of Florida. It's a phenomenal restaurant. They're in New York, they're in Chicago, they're in Las Vegas. Phenomenal Asian restaurant that we're bringing on Palm Parkway. And as we've developed our O-Town property, we've had several restaurants contact us and say, you know, Eddie V's type quality, but different. That we'd like to be non-chain. Eddie V's is a chain. We've had non-chain restaurants contact us and say, we'd really like to be in the Dr. Phillips area. We have a very nice Greek restaurant that wants to be here. We're talking to a very nice Italian restaurant that wants to be here. We're talking to a Cameron Mitchell concept. Cameron Mitchell owns Ocean Prime, another concept that he's got that's a very nice concept. So our goal is to bring a handful of restaurants here to replace the bank, to put a new bank in the back. They don't need the size they have now. We have a 2-story bank building there with office on the 2nd floor and a bank on the 1st floor. So the bank would like to stay in their corner, their lease is coming up. So we made provisions to put the bank in the back and then have the restaurants wrap Dr. Phillips and along Sand Lake Road. So it's a great concept. I know, I got some phone calls, so if this is approved, they're gonna approve the apartments. It has nothing to do with the apartments, whether they ever build them or they don't build them, or they utilize the local or they don't. This is our own independent project, and, it is what it is, and I think you guys know we've brought great restaurants to the area already, and, we're trying to enhance Dr. Phillips. I'm a resident here, I live here, I'm not a developer from out of town, and I think we can develop a great project for Dr. Phillips. And, is there anything that you should add on density? I think I probably covered it.
I definitely think there's some questions if you want to open up to
Yeah, let's start some questions, and let's, if we could, I've done so many of these meetings, if we can start from one side, and just work across the room.
And
If you're comfortable speaking without the mic, we'll try to hear you. If you would like me to bring the mic to you, I will do that. Okay.
First question, do you have sufficient parking with it being parking lot to accommodate your 3 to 4 restaurants? And then some, because as you know, as residents, that area has not enough parking as it is.
I've got a reputation of no park shop, my favorite goes, because they could do so well. And we actually designed this for more parking than we need beyond code, because we know these restaurants will be successful. A lot of my developments I've built have been very successful, and we have not had enough parking. We've over-designed the parking here to make sure we have plenty of parking.
One other question for you, that corner tends to have a homeless problem. Are you planning on your new building having a security staff or something to accommodate?
Currently, right now, we don't have homeless on our property. We have Unifor Pass full-time property management. And I know what's happened on Sand Lake is that we generally try to keep them off our property, remove them, and help whatever way we can. It's become a problem in this area, and I agree with you. Next question. Let me start here on Jack. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any way that you can take care of this ugly arch built from stones?
It's funny you mentioned that. I talked to Dr. Phillips Foundation a couple of years ago, and I'm willing to reach out to.
Can you restate the question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. She wanted to know if there's any way we could do something about the ugly arch that sits in the middle of Dr. Phillips Boulevard. It's the one that's kind of leaning over, that's done out of stones. I know the folks at Dr. Phillips. I bought a bunch of property from those guys. I talked to them once before. I think if I agree to at my expense to rebuild something pretty there, they'll agree to it. I'm willing to do that. I agree with you. We need a nicer monument coming into that Dr. Phillips area. So I would endeavor to do that. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I live in the Stonewood Manor home, townhome, and myself, along with a lot of our community members, signed a petition because of the noise emanating from the H. There's bass that can be heard every Friday and Saturday from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. It's a high-end restaurant, but what we're concerned about is if a bunch of other restaurants come about, and especially if they have outdoor seating, how is that going to affect all of our communities around there when we're already getting disrupted?
Let me address it. We built 30 restaurants on Sand Lake Road. We've never had a complaint about noise with one of them. And we don't intend on making it a problem.
That's not true.
We haven't had.
This is an extension of International Drive, and we're not going to allow it.
So,
And I wrote you today.
okay, can you,
An
sir, we'll get
attorney's
to you.
name is
Sir,
on there.
sir, we'll get to you.
Okay, I just
So,
want to make sure
ma'am,
you know.
The H turns into a nightclub at night. I've been there. It turns into a nightclub at night. We do not plan on having any nightclubs there. I'll even agree to restrict our property from clubs. We're not gonna have a nightclub there. The H turns into a nightclub at night, has very loud music. That's nothing what we intend to do. We intend to have high-end restaurants.
Is that area zoned for clubs?
I don't know. I think you can do clubs in commercial.
Maybe Commissioner Wilson.
There, certainly restaurants and bars and stuff are allowed in the C1 district to some degree. I don't have a zoning representative here tonight to confirm exactly what's allowed, but C1 allows an awful lot, almost any commercial use you can think of that you'd find in a typical retail district. And that would include restaurants and bars.
I would tell you, if you're having noise issues, Orange County does have a noise ordinance. And you can certainly call code enforcement.
Oh, I know. We've been in contact with the mayor, the EPP. Yes.
I know you.
The awesome commissioner.
Yeah, we do have a noise ordinance. It's been on the books for 30 years, hasn't been updated. We're working on it because there really are some limitations. And quite frankly, when it was put into code, we weren't as intense, and we weren't as dense, and we did have a lot of natural buffers we don't have anymore. So, you know, from what I'm hearing from residents, and I understand you're saying you don't hear complaints, but I think a lot of times a developer develops, and then, a business owner opens it, and so what you may be hearing and what that business owner hears later on may be very different. And I think if there's a way for us to prevent that moving forward in our development, which I do think setbacks to some extent and natural buffers allow for some of those types of protections, and I think that's a lot of the concern that you're hearing from our residents.
I would point out one other thing on our development is, we don't abut any houses. I mean, the setback we're asking for is against an office building and a bank on the other side. That's where we're asking for the reduced setback. So it's right along Dr. Phillips, not along residential.
And
Yes, ma'am.
the base reverberates though. We're 1,600 feet.
I understand that. We propose nothing like what H has.
Yeah, so keep that in mind.
I mean, we built Bruce Chris Steakhouse. Okay, can I go down the line? I'm just trying to keep a semblance of the room.
One more thing. On that note, there are residents that I know of behind the Lodge who have been calling the sheriff's department about a fallen in the lobby.
Yes, me too, yes.
So it is an issue, just so you know, to keep that in mind and make sure it doesn't. And thank you, County Commissioner. You've been helpful.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm concerned about the visual impact of having such a tall building so close to the road right there at Dr. Phillips and Sands Lake.
You didn't hear the question.
She said she's concerned about the visual impacts of having the taller building in the corner of Dr. Phillips and Sands.
A tall building. An extension of the national drawing. Will somebody support me on this thing?
It is an urban design. We did push it up to the front on purpose, trying to create an urban design to kind of, create a box end at that intersection. It's 20 foot taller than what's allowed by code right now, and it's mainly the elevator run-ups and the screening on the building. So it's just slightly taller than what's allowed by code. And like I pointed out, it's those small elements on the building that drive that. And we'll certainly look at those to see if we can just eliminate those elements. And I don't know if there's an elevator system that doesn't require run-up, but then we can bring it down by that distance. Let me keep going this way. Yes, ma'am?
I have like a twofold question. I am concerned about changing the aesthetics.
I'll repeat your question.
I like that the Delagio has the parking underground. Is there a possibility of that? And is there any studies on what it will cause for the water runoff, changing all of these, setbacks?
She said she does like the Lodgio, how the parking's underground. We built that, thank you. And as far as water runoff, we're going to maintain all of our own water on the property. It's designed that way so there will be no water runoff issue, and it's not practical on this site for us to go underground. It's just not plausible. I'll take another look at it, but I just don't think with the water table we can do it on this site. Thank you. Yes, sir.
How are you going to continue water?
Can I just keep going in order, please? Thank you. Yes, sir.
Chuck, to your picture to the right, where your building is, to the right, the one or to the left is white. That's only 2 stories tall. That's where World of Beer used to be, and the water retention pond's there. That structure is substantially taller and larger than your proposed 8-story or up to 7-story structure.
Yeah,
You
those
see what I'm
buildings-
talking about?
Yeah, I don't know how those got, they're not in our renderings. I'm not sure about the white blocking, but there are 2
That's your
buildings over there. You're right. Those are 1.5-story height buildings that are probably 24 foot tall.
Towards that, that's not
Chuck,
part of
I'm
your
sorry, time
project.
out.
No, that's not part of our project.
So
Okay.
they're having a hard time hearing.
Okay, I'm sorry. His question is there's,
I think
in the photo, there appears to be 2 buildings to the left that are white. That's not our buildings. As everybody knows, there's a building there that used to be World of Beer. It's a 1.5 tall story building, and the perspective and height isn't right.
And secondarily is egress in and out of that property is going to create a choke point for where 2J's is, Morton's, and a lot. How are you going to flow all the potential traffic?
So he's asking about ingress and egress. Ingress and egress essentially will remain the same as it is right now. The way the county's come back to us, we wanted to put one other exit point. Where do I want to put that exit point? I wanted to put it over here, and they told me they didn't want it there. So he said, is it over here? Is it right over here? Yeah, they wanted me, I was going to put another exit here, but the county wants me to maintain essentially the same access we have with the building as it sits this very moment. So that doesn't plan on changing.
And on the Sand Lake side and DP, is that where the restaurants are going to be? And on the opposite end is where you're proposing to put the banks?
Yes, there's Sand Lake.
Question, please.
Yeah, he asked, the Sand Lake and Dr. Phillips, is that where I propose on putting the restaurants? We have restaurants running down Dr. Phillips, and at the entrance to the shopping center, having where the bank is.
You have purple, the two structures there, the purple on the back side.
This is the intersection.
Where's Stella Drive?
Is that reversed?
This is the front.
Where's the,
Oh, okay.
where's Dr. Phillips?
I'm looking at the reverse.
This is Dr. Phillips.
Yeah, this is Dr. Phillips here. This is where the bank would be in the back. So I guess, to give you all
So literally
perspective,
it's upside down.
this is Sand Lake Road, Dr. Phillips, so this is the traffic light here. So these are restaurants across the front, restaurants here. We're putting the bank back here. This is the entrance into the marketplace over here.
The purple, what's that? I guess.
So the purple are restaurants and then a bank.
So related to that, where is that
This
oriented here?
is Sand Lake Road, Dr. Phillips, the entrance into the marketplace. This is what would run Sand Lake Road. These are restaurants on the side of Dr. Phillips, and then going into the marketplace is where the bank would be.
Okay, so it's actually that rendering, it should be
It's
the other way around.
they've got them shifted, so it's hard to call them
Thank you,
there.
Chuck.
Let me keep going this way. Yes, sir.
Yeah, a couple clarifications from the county. The county can answer these
Here's a
questions.
question for you.
Basically, you're talking about live local. Increase in density and increase in height. But you still have to deal with all the same waivers that you have on this request, right? If you go with live local.
I'm not quite sure how we're handling that, because the local is very new. Sorry, the question is, would we have to make the same waivers? Am I understanding the question?
Live local, as I
If it was developed as a live local project, could they ask for these same waivers?
I think they would have to, because 1.6 acres is not very
Yeah,
much to build.
I'm not sure I can answer that question because we haven't successfully processed a live local project yet. I'm not quite sure we'll be allowed, because we do not allow them to go into plan development zoning. You have to keep the present zoning, and then there is a separate process they have to go through.
Well, the second part of that question really has to do with the setback of down to 10 feet off of Dr. Phillips Boulevard. What happens if Dr. Phillips Boulevard ever needs to be expanded? Does that mean the whole building has to be condemned?
So the question was, if they reduce the setback on the side of Dr. Phillips and Dr. Phillips needs to be expanded, what then? That is actually a question for our development engineering staff. I don't know, we have staff from transportation planning and from traffic engineering. I'm not sure if they can shed some light on that. Okay.
Myrna, if I could, what he wanted to know is if we have reduced setbacks, if the road gets widened, we are not going into the right of way. So no, it would not affect our building. There's a right of way outside of our property line, we are not going into that right of way.
There's a 20-foot setback today.
There's a 20-foot setback today for landscape.
If you go down to 10.
If we go down to 10, we are still not going in the right of way. If the road is expanded, it has nothing to do with our property. It's not affect.
I mean, I think you're asking, I think the question you're asking is what if we needed to obtain more right of way? I don't know if we can answer that question today. I mean, the question would be if in fact right of way was needed, then we would have to get with the property owner at that time and figure out what. So, I'm sorry, oh, am I? Okay, so there are no current plans to widen Dr. Phillips. Okay, transportation planning is Sand Lake, yes. Okay, so if there are improvements scheduled for Sand Lake, or planned for Sand Lake, but not to Dr. Phillips' presence according to our transportation plan.
Is that going to affect the property?
So, my engineer is saying, if you go back one more slide, you can see how much distance there is on Sand Lake. We did the Sand Lake widening. Everything in front of Trader Joe's all the way to the intersection of Apopka Island. We constructed that ourselves. Sand Lake is going to be 6 lanes. The property is already designated for it. It does not affect our property whatsoever. And that project, I think, Marna, when is that project starting, the Sand Lake widening, next year?
Yes.
Next year, the Sand Lake widening will start. Yes, sir.
What are the operational hours of these restaurants?
Our operation hours will be the same as everybody else. We'll probably close somewhere around 10:30, 11 o'clock at night based on demand. We close late right now, I think at 10:30, 11 at night. Eddie V's closes at midnight, and I think Ocean Pride closes at midnight. We'll compete in the same arena everybody else does. Next question, yes ma'am.
I think it's more of a statement. I'm only in Dr. Phillips 6 years, but I don't really like this. I just think that it's just bringing too much traffic. It's horrible now. I think there's enough fine restaurants, and I would want to see the restaurants that we've already started to. Yeah. I love New York restaurants, but I don't want New York restaurants. I would have stayed in New York. I want Steinmart. Does anybody miss Steinmart? Boulevard is a horror almost any time of the day now.
You know what's interesting?
And you're appealing to the tourists. I don't.
Right. Thank you. The rest of you, some of you were trying to order dinner a few minutes ago. Why don't you get to the problem
A
here?
lot of change, others don't. We don't really want to spend it on eating. But who is it for? That's what
And that's an opinion. She said she doesn't want any more nice restaurants in the area, I understand. And years ago, I'll tell you, there was a Board of County Commission meeting, maybe 15 years ago, and I don't know who attended it. Everybody came out and said, we don't want Sand Lake to be 6 lanes. We want it 4 lanes, so never make it 6 lanes. Martin, you're familiar with that? Everybody in this community said, we don't want it 6 lanes.
18 years ago, Chuck, I've been at every meeting. 18 years ago is when the people in this area decided they didn't want to widen Sand Lake Road. So it wasn't 6 years ago, it wasn't like that. And I called this woman out on this. She was very nice, and I was very nice when I called her out at the last meeting that I was at regarding the apartments going across the street from Whole Foods. That decision was made approximately 18 years ago, Chuck, so please don't throw that back in our face.
I'm not throwing it back in your face, but Sand Lake is getting widened, and we need Sand Lake widened. I live here, we need Sand Lake
The
widened.
only reason why it needs to be widened because of all the development. We don't need all this development.
Okay, folks, we're getting a little off track. We got a lot of folks that want to talk. We need to focus just on this project. We understand you got a lot of broader concerns, but we need to be focusing on this particular project.
And I was gonna say, I know there's some people having a hard time hearing the questions in the back, so I'm gonna walk the mic around. I think it's really important to hear each other, get these questions out. And I know we're gonna run out of time, so I think it's also really important. If you do not get my newsletter, we will continue to tell you the dates that it comes to the LPA and the BCC, and anything that the applicant wants to share, we can help get that information out. And I know you're hearing people. I will tell you that as someone who doesn't like seeing people try to cross a big 6-lane road to get from one store to another, I hear you, and it makes me very nervous because I think people then become very dependent on their
I
cars.
don't go on that
Yeah.
site.
Okay, so let me go ahead and what you guys were in this.
Can you let Mr. Conson ask a question? He's been working so hard for so many months in this area, and I've heard so many stupid questions, I can't leave until he asks his
Okay, we'll get
questions.
to
Okay, my question has to do with the parking structure. You said that's 6 stories or 7 stories? What is that?
Okay.
70 feet. 4 stories, and that's how many parking spots?
Yeah, we're actually exceeding code. I think it's 400 and something spaces.
And you think that those 3 or 4 restaurants need 400 parking spaces?
Yes.
Okay. I agree with her, the parking structure is ugly. It doesn't, I don't think they need 400 parking spaces there. And the variance that you're requesting is setting a precedent for the Kimco project. You may have nothing to do with it, but you requesting a variance for height has everything to do with Kimco requesting a variance for height for their project.
Let me address that. But that is incorrect. Live Local allows them to go as tall as the closest building within 1 mile. There's a building built behind the fountains that is over 10 stories tall. You can read the code. Governor Santa signed it.
So I will share with you the actual legislation, and I just want to make sure we stay focused. Live Local Act is not part of this application. Let's stay focused on this application. There's a lot of questions.
I have probably the most basic question. If a restaurant is allowed as a use in C1, why is it necessary to request that this parcel be zoned PD, which provides many more entitlements than you already enjoy by owning this parcel? You could ask for the waivers on a C1, on the C1 parcel, and still do your project. You tell me why you're trying to change to a PD?
That's an engineering question, so I'm gonna let the engineer answer it.
So, sorry, Nathan Mills with Kinley Horn. Essentially, with the existing zoning that's C1, you could build by right up to 105,000 square feet of commercial. So what we do with a PUD rezoning is that it's more of a negotiated zoning district where we work closely with staff to create a development that's got, you know, the urban form that the county is trying to, you know, create. So essentially, we're working with staff on a couple different waivers rather than just go through with what's existing for a variance. So like Chuck said before, the height is going a little bit above what code allows for right now. So that's the reason for the PUD zoning. And then there's a couple other waivers that we're requesting in terms of landscape buffering and setbacks, which all of which would essentially, or majority of which would be allowed with the new code, because the county is requiring buildings to be pushed closer to right-of-ways to create that urban form. So if that answers your question.
Very, without getting argumentative, okay, the very first line.
Hold on.
So this is more for county staff that have to review this, but without being argumentative, the very first line in the land development code, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, it says, the Orange County Land Development Code is to ensure sustainable land development that preserves the character of the existing communities and celebrates Orange County's diversity. How does a 70-foot tall parking garage fit in the community of Dr. Phillips with a shopping center that is Italian Mediterranean style architecture? The run for the parking garage, I'm sure many people don't really understand what you're talking about, Mr. Whittle, but I do. Here, and the run up from an elevator going to the top does not justify 20 feet beyond what's allowable by code. And I know that by offering PD, that if this doesn't pencil out, you'll be back. And Live Local does allow you to build apartments. And the county can't stop you when it comes to density and when it comes to height. But Live Local does require you to live within or work within all of the existing parameters according to setbacks, landscaping requirements, traffic requirements, etc. So you do have, they can't control density, they can't control height on Live Local. And so by throwing that out there, it's kind of like trying to bully the community. And it's wrong. It's wrong. And I'm you redeveloping the corner of your parcel to earn more, to make it more valuable, but not at the expense of the character of our community.
Thank you.
It's just because you can doesn't make it right you should.
Amen.
Thanks for coming. I understand that you're part of the community. So that being said, I know I eat at a lot of the restaurants that are already there. Inca Rose is my favorite. I go to a lot of those businesses. I'm a little worried on the impact all these new restaurants are going to have on them, number one. And number two, there are restaurants that are closing, like the Macaroni Grill on South Pocket Island. I understand you want to bring new restaurants in. I'm all for that. I'm a big city person. That sounds great. But why don't we do it with places that are already closed instead of moving out, this is one of the most plainest shopping, and I've lived everywhere, my husband was in the military for 20 years. We chose to retire here over Tampa and a lot of other places because we felt like it had a lot of things with that small town feel and a quaint feel. And now, as I've been here for almost 5.5 years, the traffic's getting worse. And I just think that there's other places that you can live that dream, and then we could have those restaurants. The other thing I just want you to consider is the traffic. Now, I know it's not your problem because you're not in charge of, the roads and widening the lanes, and I guess there was, issues with that way back then. But it is going to be a bigger problem if these restaurants come, no matter how great they are. And I'm sure they're great restaurants. But that's going to be a huge problem. You've got 2 schools on that street, Southwest Middle, 3, Dr. Phillips Elementary, and then Palm Bay. Palm Bay. It's just more of a residential area. So I'm not really so much against these restaurants coming. I can feel you a little bit on that, but I don't think this is the area for it. I think if I were you, I would explore other areas that have restaurants that need revitalization. There's some near the SeaWorld, near that where Cheddar's is. Why would you go there?
You don't make any money on that.
Why don't you laugh? It sounds like you got lots of
Earlier you said that all drainage would be kept on site. How do you plan on doing that when you don't have any surface?
We have an underground retention system designed for the site. It's engineered and proven to work. We've used it. Billwin at Bellagio, Billwin the Fountains has an underground retention system. Trader Joe's has an underground retention system. It's widely done all over the county.
I had the same question as the gentleman, and I didn't understand what the engineer explained. Why does it need to be rezoned if exemptions could be done with the existing?
So you understand a PD development, C1 zoning, which is what we have, was the old school of zoning. This is commercial, this is office, this is multifamily. PD is okay, if I can use the microphone, I'm sorry.
So all the new developments being done today, Baldwin Park, I built everything downtown Baldwin Park, the town center, the grocery store, the restaurants. Development today, Horizons West, they're all planned developments. Before, the way the codes used to be, this is commercial, this is office, this is hotel, this is multifamily, go build on it. And so now, the county, land planners, through time, people have learned that planned developments come for better developments. It becomes a negotiation between the county and the developer to sit down, like the county came to me and said, we'd like outdoor seating. Can you put outdoor seating here? Can you put pavers here? It's a negotiation. It ends up in a better development. All municipalities are going to plan developments because you get better development, more responsible development. And it's an interaction between the developer and the county, and it just makes for better development. And that's what's being done nationwide now.
Well, it doesn't, I thought it included residences too.
Well, planned developments can. So when you do a planned development, you can have, like for instance, so if any of you have been to my development at Oaktown, we did a big planned development. We did multifamily, the Bentley apartment complex. We did Glass House. We did restaurants. We did the public shopping center. So it can be mixed use. When you do a planned development, that's a negotiation. You sit down with the county. We do meetings like this tonight, and we put it in front of the community, and we try to come up with a negotiated plan. That's what's
C1
important.
doesn't allow for residences, planned development allows for residences.
Well, no, not necessarily. Commercial zoning right now, I could build commercial. There's certain uses that fall in commercial. You can do restaurants, you can do fast food, you can do all sorts of uses like that. Live local, you can now do it on commercial. With the planned development, it just, maybe Ms. Commissioner Wilson, if you can hit that.
I want to make clear, a planned development is a type of zoning where you have a site-specific
Each site is its
plan in terms of uses and other things that you have on the site. What is allowed there is dictated by our comprehensive plan and the future land use map. That was the first map that I showed you up here. This property is designated commercial. It does not have any residential entitlements associated with it according to the comprehensive plan. you would have to change the land use to do that. The only thing you can do there now are commercial uses, and of course, live local would now allow you to do residential, but it's,
I'm sorry if I might overstay my question. And also, I think we need to diversify and just not have restaurants here.
Yes.
There are no like theaters or any cafes or anything.
Senior center.
Senior center. Where is
our senior centers, right?
Okay, hold on, I'm going in the back. Hold on, I know my friends in the back are feeling very neglected. Hold on.
Why don't we?
There's
nothing, just restaurants.
I've been asking Martin if
There's no money in it for them.
I'm confused. Under the existing permit, whatever property. Is this on?
Talk into it. Don't waive it.
hold
Hold up on your
Under the existing, as far as I understand, you can go 50 feet, right? You talked about, as part of your leverage, or part of the sales pitch, I could put apartments there. That's what you said, which I don't think is a good way to sell. That's besides the point, because that's a threat. Okay, wait, hear me out, let me finish.
Please let him finish the
Let me
question.
finish, you can have your time, I want my time. Okay.
And you said I was bullied.
Okay.
The developer behind us plans on doing apartments.
I understand
I didn't come in here tonight to do apartments. I was trying to make it clear that I'm not coming in here trying to ram a local project down your throat. I'm saying I'm trying to bring a nice restaurant.
Right.
I'm not threatening you with
Right now, you are approved for commercial. Am I correct? Okay. So that's all you can do, is commercial. Nothing else. So your conversation about what you can build with people has nothing to do with this conversation. So you should keep it out of our conversation. Now, you've done great work. You've built some very nice projects. I think. Bellagio is a very nice project. Some of what you built is a very nice project. We live in a small town. It's getting bigger. It's bigger than we'd like it to be. So developments like this create a lot of problems for us. Because it seems like big town things. And we have a problem with that. And while you are part of the community, somebody also put that sign on your property. I don't know if it's you or somebody else, which is the last huge sign that's paid by whatever. That shouldn't be part of our community either. Because it infringes on the privacy of what we all have. We don't need that stuff, quite frankly. And it sits there. So are you intending to keep it there as well when you build the project?
The billboard? Billboard?
Who's that? Is that yours?
No.
Right, so when we talk about, you care about the community, if you lived in a community, would you like to have that underneath your house? Somewhere around your house? Okay, well, the truth is, it shouldn't be there. And so that measures what you feel about our community. Because if you really felt about our community, things like that wouldn't happen. So the problem you have with a building like this, you say a lot of things, what can come out of it is a lot of things different. And that's why you get this. Well,
Okay, yeah, but I think, please.
right.
Everywhere I go, I've done what I said.
Well, that's the problem. That's our problem. That's our problem.
So
Yeah, don't point the finger. either.
don't personalize this rule. They're trying to, but they're trying really hard to express frustrations. I think we can all agree that ultimately we want the same things. We'll get there and we can hear each other.
Right.
So we're going to be civil and make sure that we hear each other's questions. So thank you so much for that. Everyone's right behind you.
Yes, my name is Rose, and I've been with the development even of Oak Island, when they wanted to turn it into 6 roads.
You can do
And
it.
the impact that we've been having. Oh, hello, my name is Rose Renatella, okay? And I've worked with Teresa on when we wanted to build, and make more roadway and everything. The thing is that when we get too big and we can't sufficiently get the traffic going, the children, we can't get the schools. I was involved in a very bad head-on accident last week. I was in the hospital for 3 days. And And the reason why is because while you guys are making opportunities, you might make beautiful hotels and restaurants, and that's wonderful. I applaud it, sir. That's what you should be doing, but in the right places. Some of the places we have that we are considering, our children walk down these roads, okay? If it wasn't for me being very, very fortunate on having a higher power, I would have took out 6 to 20 children at Southwest Middle School on the road of Dr. Phillips. What does that have to do with you? It's not a restaurant, but it's down a little ways from the restaurant that they use, Dr. Phillips, to come up and down. What happens is we don't have enough time, number one, to get the roads for the schools, for the parents to get there, so they're frustrated. I got hit by a woman who ignored the yield of right of way, and she got a big ticket because she killed me, almost, okay, to do it. And what I'm trying to say to you, sir, is while you're going into all these supermarket areas and all the lots that you seem to think is very convenient, okay, there needs to be something called a little common sense. How much more do we need here in these areas, okay? And I've been on the same area that this young lady's been talking with for years. I've been here 33 years, okay? I'm not saying not to develop. Old Town did a really nice job. They did a fantastic job. And you know what? At first, I was very much against it, okay? But when I saw the buildings, which I'm sure you make beautiful buildings, you sound like you do. And I actually would be the kind of person that would support you. But we have to do it in the right place. We have to. Because if we don't, I almost walked, when I walked out of my car, and my car was fuming, smoke, all kinds of things, and I couldn't see where I was going because everything blew up in my face, okay? And I kicked myself out of the car because I couldn't get released from a lot of things, okay? But I thought about 6 children, maybe 20, waiting there. And that's it. That's all I want to say, is we need to think about our children walking around as well.
One question. On the 29,700 square feet, other than the restaurants at the front, a bank, what else is going in there for 6 months? I'm just curious.
So, first I'll tell you, we got one more county thank you. As far as the 29,000 feet, there is approximately 7,000 or 8,000 square foot of office, 3,000 or 4,000 square foot of bank, and about 15,000 square foot of restaurants. Yes, that's it. No, it does not. No, it allows us to do, if we get approved for this plan development, it allows us to do what we're asking for. Nothing beyond it.
So my concern is, why add more right now until this corridor and the driveway, all that good stuff? Because we always seem to do the opposite. They build the buildings, they build the stuff, and then they realize, oh no, we have the traffic problem. And then they decide to put the construction on the roads, and then it makes it a nightmare for about 2 or 3 years.
Well, I can tell you that I've built as much or more than anybody else in Orange County, and this isn't something that happens right away. In Orange County, it takes a couple of years to get that done, and the roads should be probably done by the time we would even do this.
So we are over time here. I know we were late getting in, so I apologize for that. I appreciate you all being here and being patient. I do want to take another question. And then if there are unresolved questions, I know there are, it's okay. Please send them to me. We will make sure. Oh, I do have another gentleman who asked me very early on to make sure. Okay.
Just easy
Got a brief one?
housekeeping type stuff.
So you had mentioned, someone mentioned that the concept plan doesn't get submitted with the application, it's just a request for rezoning. So what is preventing the approval and the concept completely changing? Because I remember when the Publix was built, it was also, there's going to be fine dining here, and there was going to be a meeting space for seating, and none of that ever happened. So it completely changed from what it was going to be to something else at some point. So isn't that a similar situation here?
Well, I can tell you a couple quick things. Years ago with Teresa Jacobs, they put in place that if you show something on the rendering, you can't do it differently, because people did do a bait and switch on those. And this staff I've worked with for years, and that just doesn't happen in Orange County. Doug, you can probably...
Yeah, just what I mentioned earlier about there's another step called the development plan. That's the purpose of the development plan. We can come in and you get a plan development. You essentially sign a contract saying this is what I'm going to build and this is how I'm going to build it. The purpose of the development plan, it's to say, okay, you want to build it, show us in detail that you're meeting everything you said you were going to do in the PD. So that's how we make sure. I understand you have questions, sir?
Yeah, just kind of a couple of simple things. Just so you know,
Yeah, can you hear? Okay. In 2019, I was Individual Distinguished Service Award winner, Florida Trust for Historic Preservation. A jury of 6 people statewide made the decision. The reason that I spoke up the way I did was because I really was concerned that I wouldn't get a chance to speak tonight. The suggestion for any of these meetings in the future, have a podium. People should be able to line up and they should be able to speak. And I mean, that's just simple. But there's some conclusions just waiting to be drawn for this whole room here. We're hearing about, I don't even remember what is it, live, what, I don't.
Live local.
Live, but wasn't there something else with that too?
No.
Okay, but have you listened to who's behind that? Did you hear who's behind it? Now, if you're not happy with overdevelopment, you should contact Mayor Jerry Demings, and you should contact all of the commissioners and let them know how you feel. You can email them, text them, phone them. This is how you stop a development. You don't have to approve any of these things. I mean, if you want to ask questions about them, it's your business. But imagine how serious this is. Do you realize that our governor, and I am not, I mean, he's done some good things. This isn't a political thing. But do you have any idea how much risk I'm taking in trying to help protect you folks in this town? You don't know what I'm talking about, do you? You know what I'm talking about. Governor DeSantis signed a bill that says that people like me can be sued and have to pay his legal fees. So I'm taking a big risk speaking up for people. I don't get paid to do this. I've been doing this 20 years on a volunteer basis. I founded Friends of Winter Park, Friends of Windermere. It took me 5 years to get a threatened listing from the National Trust for Historic Preservation for Windermere. Founded Friends of Cypress Gardens, Friends of Florida's Coast. There are just a couple of quick things before I get off this. When you have something that is basically, this man, one of the reasons it's so upsetting to me is he does good work. That's what the problem is. This is something that should be on International Drive. I went to school with the executive chairman. The executive chairman of Riz Chris was my Rollins classmate. And I'm not saying this because of him, but folks, you might like the decor at some of the other places, but when you get that steak and you get the potato there and the cream spinach and the rolls, it's better than anybody. So why are we talking about more restaurants? Just focus on, this is a small-scale historic village. Did you realize that this was the largest citrus grove in the world? Do all of you know that? That's what Dr. Phillips was. That huge Dr. Phillips, beautiful headquarters there. I've been in touch with Ken Robinson. I've been in touch with Todd Jones as he's going to find out. You know, these aren't people I just called because I got upset one day. I've been on the case ever since June 2022, when I tried to get into the Roseland Center. My wife and I had to walk literally a mile to get there. There were probably about 80 people outside. Because of my background, I've written a lot. I brought a bunch of copies of my work with me and I passed them out to all 80 or so people there. And I had been told, literally by security, all the commissioners are in there. I swear, I questioned them 3 times. I just couldn't, that can't be true. And we can't get in? No, we can't get in. So imagine what that's like for me. I published in 24 publications, including last week in Whittier. I'm published in the Wall Street Journal, chief executive. I coined the term national community activist. So what I'm saying is, you got all sorts of help here, but we need to get really serious about the idea, is this out of character? And the biggest thing of the night, if you remember one thing I said, is 1,500 cars. You will kill this town with 1,500 cars, and this man can't add a bicycle to this town because you got 1,500 cars with an 8-story hyperdevelopment.
Okay, so
and it doesn't matter that it's
really
not
wrap
his,
it up.
it's somebody else's.
Okay.
We got to deal with
Folks,
it. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
Okay, school board staff has asked us to wrap this up. We need to respect their time, so thank you very much. Please get in touch with the commissioner. Do you have anything you want to say?
I just want to thank you all for being here. I know this isn't a fun way to spend the evening, and I want to thank the applicant and the applicant's team for being here. I always feel like even when these are tense, they're very productive. It allows us to know what next steps are and where, it really reaffirms for me sort of where the feelings in my community are. So if you have any existing questions that didn't get resolved, or you just want to share your thoughts on this, email me to the district1@ocfl.net or nicole.wilson@ocfl.net, but also make sure you're all reaching out to the entire board. I do sit on a county commission, which means that decisions aren't made unilaterally. And we're usually pretty close to getting along, but sometimes we divide. So just make sure you're expressing your thoughts to everybody.
Thank you very much. If you'd like one of my cards,